Hello, everyone, and welcome to Essentials of English 101. This time, we are going to work on integrating a paraphrase. So you already know how to cite in text. You already know how to integrate a quote. This time, we're going to talk about paraphrasing. First of all, what is a paraphrase? You might have heard this word before, but be unsure exactly what it means. A paraphrase is when you take someone else's idea and express it in your own words. But because the idea came from someone else, you still need to cite them, okay? We do this all the time when we're talking to each other. Like I might tell a story that my husband told me to somebody else, and I'm not telling it exactly in his words, quoting him verbatim, because I probably don't remember it perfectly. I'm telling it in my own words, but I would still give him credit. That's what this is, essentially, okay? So if we take the quote that we used last week, we diminish our own lives, right? And we are putting this information in our own words. Let's take a look at what that might look like. There are some ways to sort of poorly paraphrase or do this not very effectively. And what that would mean is just basically using the same words but not putting it in quotes. So for example, if we wrote, when Rinaldi writes about diminishing our own lives, it made me think of my experience in high school, okay? Now this is ineffective paraphrasing because I basically use this quote. I'm using diminishing our own lives. There's very, very little that's different there. I really should just put this in quotations, like just change it back to we diminish our own lives and put it as a quote, okay? That would make it more effective. I also have double-cited here, Rinaldi and Rinaldi, which I don't need to do, remember, okay? If I have her name in the body of the text, I don't need it at the end here. Now, one thing about paraphrasing is you don't need the page number like you do with citing a quote. So that is a little bit different. But this is bad paraphrasing because it's too close to Rinaldi's words. Here's a better way to do it. When Rinaldi writes about missing out on experiences because of being afraid to suck at something, it made me think of my experience in high school. Okay, so now we're talking about her concept as a whole instead of just talking about, her exact words here. All right, so this would be like talking about the concept, but not necessarily using her exact words. So that is effective paraphrasing. Now you have the choice here. You don't need Rinaldi here and Rinaldi here. Okay, I've put both here so you can see. You can do it here or here. Either one is correct. All right. So tips for effective paraphrasing. Read for the idea that you want to express, like what is the essence of what I'm going for here? And then don't look at the page or quote when you're trying to paraphrase it. Whenever I'm trying to paraphrase and I'm looking at the quote, I'm always going to think, oh, they said it better than me, so I should just quote it, which isn't bad unless you're trying to practice paraphrasing, right? Once you have your paraphrase, revisit the original text to ensure that you did not poorly paraphrase. So once I put it in my own words, go back to that quote or section and see, like, did I basically quote? Because if so, then you might want to change it to a quote. Make sure that you cite, even though you might not have an exact quote here, you shouldn't if it's paraphrasing, you do need to cite it, but you do not need a page number because the ideas that you're talking about, they're ideas as a whole. You are not zoning in on a particular phrase. So how do you know whether to paraphrase or quote? Paraphrasing is best when you're writing broadly about the ideas of the author that are not limited to one sentence or a specific term or two. You also want to paraphrase when you're trying to write the paper as much as possible in your own words, okay? So it is good to paraphrase. And you're also showing that you understand and can fully integrate the knowledge acquired from this text. So you're not just integrating the text, not just integrating a quote, you are taking the ideas from that text and folding it in to your own paper. Quoting is best when you have an exact phrase that you really love or terms that you're using from the author, like they use a specific term that you want to cite. You should put it in quotes then. You want to reference something specific about the way an author wrote something, the way they phrased it, okay? Or you have a particular line that you're referencing that needs a page number. You want folks to be able to find it. That makes sense to do a quote instead, okay? Either way, don't forget to cite with Rinaldi's last name, all right? So this week, what you're going to do is paraphrase a selection from the book in addition to including a quote, okay? So we're still practicing this. And don't forget to include your works cited, all right? You've got this.